Ever thought about moving out west? That's right, the West Coast. How about becoming a special education teacher? Well, serving up at the Breakfast Buffet podcast, we have Joey Ghione, a native from New Jersey, also an NCAA All-American wrestler and Division One wrestler, moved out west to become a special education teacher. Listen to our discussion. Hopefully, we will inform and also entertain you guys.
Do it! Ray Jaz a call. Major decision, 14-4.
Here we are, Joey Ghione. How is it out there, man? How is living out west in Reno, Nevada?
What's up, my man? It's pretty sick. It's a completely different world out here. I mean, at least, compared to New Jersey, I guess anywhere compared to New Jersey is a different world, right? Because New Jersey's a different world to everyone else. So, it's been going well, man. I'm excited about the move, and I'm happy with the decision. And I was actually with you the night that I took the job, which now I think about it is pretty ironic.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I remember you're deciding between a couple of jobs out there. So at the national tournament, right? Me, you, we were there. We competed. We were both All-Americans that year. Did you ever think of moving out west during or before the national tournament? Was it something you thought of after?
Well, it wasn't a thought of, wow, I think I'm going to do this. It was before the national tournament, the year before when I was still wrestling at Lock Haven. I was in a bad place, like I quit the team. I wasn't doing the right things, so my aunt called me one day and was like, hey, what do you think about spending your spring break out in Reno? I was like, all right, cool. Like it was my first spring break, because we're always competing,
Yeah.
So the first time I wasn't on a team. So, I was off the team, and I was just doing the wrong things, and I was just like, sure, I'll go out there for a week, get a little refresher, and hopefully come back with some clarity, right? Because fresh air will do that, and there's a bunch of mountains out here, it's a bunch of open space, it's awesome. So I came out here, and the first thought I was like, after I was leaving, I was like, dang, I could live out here, but it wasn't a thought process of me being actively looking at that point.
Yeah, it was just conscious thinking. Did you plan on when did you plan on becoming a special education teacher? Was that at Lock Haven? Did that come before? Did that happen after you transferred into Elizabethtown College, or how'd you make that choice?
So I guess I was always pretty passionate about special ed just because I was growing up with my brothers. So my two younger brothers they have autism, and and I always liked seeing the impact and that the various professionals had on their lives, right? They had home therapy, they had, special ed people coming in and working them out. And I was like, dang, that looks so much fun, And I was like, I think I could do that. And that was probably in high school when I had that thought. And then, funny thing is, I went to Lock Haven out of high school, and I was a special ed early childhood dual major. And then when I transferred to E-Town, they only had early childhood. So I actually didn't graduate with a special ed degree. I don't have one. I took 3 years of courses. I just never finished my degree.
All right, so you're a special education teacher now. What were the steps you had to take to get there? For some people that are thinking about it and want to pursue a career in special education, what were the steps to get you there? Someone coming out of high school right now that wants to go to college, either to wrestle or not, but want to pursue a career in special education, what are the steps? What kind of advice could you give them?
Well, I guess so. My path is actually a lot different than the normal path that you would take. So since me not graduating with a special education degree created a bunch of problems, right?
Uh-huh.
Especially with licensing. So I didn't have a special ed license. And according to this law, it's called free appropriate education. You need to have, how should I describe it? You need to have criteria to be a teacher. Like you need to have the most optimal experience in the classroom, right? And what comes with that is having credentials and having teachers who have credentials, right? So me not having that credential really messed things up. So when I moved out there, I already knew that schools would pay for college, and if you got into the right school, it'll help you pay for college. So, and
What do you mean schools will pay? Like your employer would pay for you to get your degree, right?
yeah, so basically what I had to do was I'm on a temporary license right now, but then my principal, Miss Orr, was like, we'll help you through school. So so basically
Is that just through connections or just through your resume? How if someone wanted to do that today, how would they proceed in going about that way?
as far as like getting my license.
Getting a license or just trying to have a school pay for you getting your license?
Well, it all depends on the school that you get employed by.
Uh-huh.
So some schools will pay it full, some schools won't pay at all. Some schools will give you a stipend for each credit. My school gives an X amount of dollars for a stipend for each credit. So basically what they did was they said, hey, like this is our policy as charter authority, because I'm a state school. And they're like, we'll give you X amount of dollars for each credit next year. Right. So this year, so everything about getting enrolled into school was on me. Like that's about me because I needed to get my license. So what I did was I started applying to all of these schools, but they weren't taking my Jersey credentials for some reason, and or my Pennsylvania credentials, excuse me, because that's where I got my degree. And so the one school that did take them was actually University of Phoenix. And you hear all these jokes about University of Phoenix online, and like you go
legendary University of Phoenix leg drop.
Yes, exactly.
No, the Lincoln Tech leg drop. Sorry, it's an inside joke. You guys won't understand. But other people will. But is that only a Nevada thing? Yo, just getting your state license is not a thing. It could be any. What made you want to do it? Be a special education teacher in Nevada and not in your home state of Jersey.
So funny. Okay, so I have to answer this question. I got to back up a year. So when I transferred to E-Town, I had this thought of, really when I transferred to E-Town, I really only did it for wrestling, and I just needed them to have one of those two majors for transfer in. And the major that I preferred was special ed. So when I got that early childhood education degree and I did my student teaching, like I loved my experience, but I was like, nah, this isn't for me. Like I need to go into special ed. So I was gonna go for my master's if I didn't get a job in New Jersey. But the problem in New Jersey right now that people don't understand is budgets are getting cut everywhere, especially in education. So it's super hard to get a job. And my aunt was like, hey, like we need teachers out here. Like there's a shortage of teachers, so you should start applying. I started applying, and then like a week later I had 3 job offers, and I was like, all right, like I guess this is where I'm going, because in New Jersey, like I had friends applying all over the place, and the closest school that they like got hired by was like an hour and a half away, like in Morgan County. So they were making this crazy commute, and I just was like, I'm not living in my parents' basement and making an hour-long commute every day when I could possibly get on my feet in a beautiful place where it's up and coming. And we can go into that later, but I was like, I'm not doing that, like, and especially in the school really sold it to me. Like, so Principal Orr basically got this job, right? And this school is brand new. So basically what the charter authority said to her was like, hey, this is your school, hire whoever you need to, like this is your reins. And that is an awesome opportunity because she built it from the ground up, and she just, and it's a really special experience. And now we're the number 3 school in Nevada. So it was a really cool pitch that they gave to me. Where like you can really make a name for yourself out here, especially in a place where there's not a lot of great education. So that's really what made my decision.
All right, so I got a couple things for you. So moving out west, right? Starting over, right? You said you only have your aunt and uncle. So honestly, you're starting with a clean slate. So how are you dealing with that? And what were the biggest obstacles and steps to get through it? I mean, I know you're not even a year there yet, but what got you through it, and what's easing your mindset right now?
Well, so the first month that I was here, it felt like a vacation, right? I wasn't used to waking up to mountains. I wasn't used to going on these hikes in California. I wasn't used to doing all these things, right? So the first month was super easy, but then like once work started picking up, and I think the one day that like it really hit me was I went to go call my buddy Owen at home. I went to go call because Owen lives around the block from me at home, and I went to go call him to like hang out. And he only lives a block away from me at home, and I went to go pick up my phone. I was like, dude, I'm across the country, and that's when like a panic attack hit me, where I was like, dang, like I'm really out here. Like I'm not here for a vacation. I'm here to live. So that's where it really hit home. So what I did was my aunt met this guy on the river. The Truckee River goes through downtown Reno, and people go fishing there, and there's a bunch of cool little towns. If anyone doesn't know Reno, it's like a mini hipster Vegas, right? You still got all these crazy casinos, but you got all these like hipster shops, and you got all these little bars, and you got all these coffee shops. It's really cool. So she's on the Truckee River, and she sees this guy with a ginormous dog, and his name is Max McGar, and he actually ran Henzo Gracie's in New York City.
Oh yeah.
For Henzo, and he was like Henzo's right hand man. He actually dated Henzo's stepdaughter for a while.
Yeah, and that's cool connection, because I used to train people at Henzo's in New York, so boom,
Yeah.
it's easy connection. If I ever go to Reno, mix it up there in that gym.
Exactly. So what I did, my aunt was like, hey, like I can tell like you're struggling a little bit. I can tell like you're looking for something. Like you should go check out this dude. So I went to his jiu-jitsu academy. I've never done jiu-jitsu in my life, and like they're only 2 years in, but this guy came from probably the best jiu-jitsu academy in the world, and he's starting his own thing out here. And like these guys out here like just brought me in. So that's kind of how I started coping with it. I got big into jiu-jitsu, and not because I love jiu-jitsu. I just love that sweat, like that grind.
Yeah. The grind of wrestling, yeah. So we'll backtrack a little bit, and then we'll touch on that. What, being a special education teacher, what is the difficulties, and what is the joy you also get out of it?
Well, I guess what's hard, is it's just seeing these kids struggle every day, right? And the thing that opened my eyes is like you can have a kid who has dyslexia and really struggle, right? You can have that, and they look like you, they talk like you, and everything like that in between. So it's hard watching these kids who they're struggling to read, they can't remember things. It's hard. So that's one, and they get defeated so easily. And as a teacher,
so how do you motivate them? How do you?
It's just consistency, and just being constant in that mode of being like, hey, like this needs to, this is a problem, So and the thing that really I tried honing in on was, just being positive, and the two things you can control. Obviously, this too.
Mindset. There we go. Mindset right there.
Effort and attitude. And
Effort and attitude. Yep.
It made a huge difference in my kids. So, and honestly, and every day it was just like, I don't care what was going on, like before this. I don't care if you were having a bad day. When you are with me, your effort and attitude has to be on point, right? But at the same time, I do care about what they were doing, right? But you cannot let them come in with a bad attitude, because the second you start pouring more with me, I'm working on the things they struggle with, right? So they're already frustrated with me to begin with. They like working with me, but the things I work on are the things they're weak at, or the things that they need to improve in. So this was a struggle for them. So when I just effort and attitude every day, and my kids have been chipping away, and it's been great. And wrestling teaches you all these crazy lessons that you never know when you're going to pull out. And I'm effort and attitude every day. That's what I've been preaching to them.
Yeah. So what would be your day-to-day now? So it's like a Wednesday or whatever. what would be Joey's day to day? Going to work, maybe coaching, all that. Your
Well,
busiest day. What is your day to day?
well, is my day to day like during quarantine, or is it
No,
during
no,
regular?
quarantine aside. If you guys didn't know, we're starting this during quarantine, but regular life, quarantine not included. Before all that, your
Okay.
busiest day. What was your day to day? Include as much as you can, including stuff in the classroom if you can.
Okay. So basically, wake up around 7. No, I would wake up around 6:15. I don't even remember what time I woke up. That's how long it feels. Um, I would wake up around 6:30 every day, and get ready. I would be in school by 7:30, and then class would start around 8:45. And I would just bounce around, seeing my kids and making sure they're on task, and maybe run some small groups. And then the end of the day is around 3. And then you have this hour after work where you get work done. So I get out at 4, but school ends at 3. And then you know after that, I either go to and we can touch on this a little bit. I either run practice at Silver State with Josh Nolan. Me and him started a club. He actually started it, but then I came on pretty early.
Uh-huh.
Or I would go to Henzo's. So the thing about quarantine, and we can talk about this for days, is I would leave my apartment at 6:30, and I wouldn't get back until 9, 8.
Yeah, that'd be like my Thursdays. I'd be out by 5:30 a.m. Wouldn't get home until maybe 2 a.m.
Yeah,
So
and
I'm grinding constantly between working out, training, if I have a show or not, doing running practice, coaching. So it happens. You just get in that mood. You get in that mindset where it's just tunnel vision, right?
right. Yeah, and I was just like, I would prefer my day like that because I got so much more done when I was busy, and like now that I'm quarantined, like I'm not getting anything done. And the thing that that I keep forgetting about to mention is I'm in grad school because I need to get my license.
Yeah.
Right. So at the end of the day, whatever energy I had to muster up, like to type a little essay or something like that online, I would do that, and then I'm in bed by like 10:30. And I'm out.
Yeah. So the quarantine's actually pretty good for you. You get this focus more on just getting your grad school done and all that stuff.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
different, because as student athletes, we never had time. So this is my first
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and we'll touch on that. Like being a student athlete really prepared me for these long weeks that I had before this whole quarantine stuff. I called it having different hats. So whenever I was working, at wrestling mindset, well, I'd put on that hat and I'd put my full effort into that. When I was coaching with the kids wrestling, that hat goes on, full focus on that. When I'm wrestling, professional, my hat is on that. So I call it having different hats. So the biggest thing with this whole quarantine is it's hard to put on those hats because you have all this free
Yeah.
time. This is
Mhm.
legit the first time I've ever had this open amount of space of free time.
Right.
I mean, luckily I'm still working, whatever, but it's different. But would you consider yourself having those hats?
Yes. I mean, on the regular day-to-day basis, yes. But when I'm quarantined, like you said, like I'm sitting in my pajamas teaching kids, and then what do? Like I don't leave my couch, I don't leave my apartment until like 3:30 rolls around, and I'm done working with kids, and then I can go out. But it's hard because we're in a world right now that's all unknown. So like, yeah, I wear all these different hats on a daily basis, but at the same time, it's like, you know, right now it's hard to tell which hat to wear.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And this whole thing, and I help a lot of kids with this, giving them advice about this whole thing, but it puts everything into perspective. And especially for the wrestlers, the NCAA wrestlers and athletes who got their nationals taken from them, I talk about purpose and putting things into perspective. Like you never know when it's going to be your last time walking on that mat. So what I tell them now, next time when you step on, don't take it for granted. Leave it all out there. For the seniors, I told them the seniors that unfortunately their season was cut short and they would never be able to compete again. They didn't give them eligibility. What I tell them is be grateful of what you had. You're part of the biggest and toughest sport out there. So you got to be proud of that. And I tell them you did everything possible that you could to prepare you for that moment, even
Yeah.
if it was pulled away from you. So I'm going to go into this now. You coaching and everything, what lessons did you take from your wrestling career? And you could talk about any lessons and then now transferring it into being a coach. I know you coach at that Silver State Academy, right?
Yeah.
In Nevada. Um, but not even coaching them, but just coaching your brother. You know, your brother wrestles for UPenn and all that. So just touch on your wrestling career. You know, maybe transferring D1 to Division 3, finally becoming an All-American, and just different lessons you got back then, and what you could tell wrestlers today so they don't make that same mistake.
Well, so the first thing is, so I guess I'll start from Lock Haven because that's where I learned like my first real like big boy life lesson. And you always learn these like little lessons along the way, like when you wherever you wrestle or whenever you wrestle, you learn these little lessons. You could learn something every day about yourself in practice, you know. But the first biggest life lesson was when I quit at Lock Haven, and it was like, you know, I was cutting the 133, and we got a new coaching staff, and I weighed 162 in the off season, and I was cutting so much weight. And I would call you a bunch, you know, like I was in a bad spot. So when I quit wrestling, like I had no idea what to do with myself, you know, and like I realized like my life was like not going in the direction I wanted it to. So I had a choice to make. I was like, you're either gonna have to clean your act up or you're going to have to wrestle again because that's going to clean your act up. And I didn't know how to clean my act up without wrestling. So I decided to wrestle again. No college really wanted to take me because they knew I was a loose cannon at that point, you know, with what I was, you know, just they didn't know how committed I was, and I didn't know how committed I was, right? Like they can tell in my eyes and the way I talk, like, oh yeah, I'll come
Yeah,
wrestle.
I saw you that summer. It was a, it was a rough attitude for the kid, and it was hard to
Yeah,
motivate you. But eventually,
yeah,
you
and
got your
and
head on it.
I think the thing that really changed was when a coach gave me a chance because I was like, you know, I'm ready to. They saw the potential through all the BS that was going on. So I called Eric Walker, who is the head coach of Elizabethtown, who's my dad's best friend, and he was like, "Listen, man, like I'll help you get recruited again," and wasn't even really getting me to E-Town. He was like, "I'll help
Uh-huh.
you," like because
Yeah.
that seems like you need help. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
"Dang, this dude has my back." Like this is the first time I've ever had really in a while, you know, like my high school coaches had my back too, but like it was the first time in a while where someone had my back besides my parents. So I was like, this guy believes in me. So I
Yeah.
called them one day. I was like, hey, I might apply to Elizabethtown. And he was like, okay, like no stress, like it doesn't have to be on me, you know. So then I'm looking at TC&J. They don't give me a chance. Shout out to TC&J because that motivated me, you know, because I was in the head coach's office, and I was like, hey, like I want to wrestle for you, and he was, you know, never got a call back after that. So I was going to all these schools and trying to get recruited, and they're not recruiting me. So I called Coach Walker. I was like, hey, I'm putting in my security deposit for next year. Like
Uh-huh.
I'm a Blue Jay now. Like let's do this, and that's
Second
where
chance, baby. Second chance.
and that's where everything flipped. He goes, dude, I'll give you second chance. You mess up once, though, you're out. Like, you're not even, like, I will get you out of this school in a heartbeat. I was like, deal. I need that. I needed it because I needed someone to hold me accountable because the only people holding me accountable was my mom and dad, you know? So I was like, I needed someone to have faith in me, and I needed that chance. So I got that chance, right? So I go to E-Town. I start working my butt off, and I had to learn how to believe in myself again because now it was on me to believe in myself. I found someone who believed in me, so now I needed someone else to believe in me, and that had to come from me, right?
And believing in your ability too.
Yeah,
That's a strong thing. I coach a lot of wrestlers now, uh, and they have all the tools, they have the technique, they're strong, but they just don't believe in their ability and that they could do it.
yeah,
And sometimes you just need that reminder that, hey, you got it, man. Just go
yeah,
out there and show it.
yeah, exactly. And I was like, you know, but I didn't want to wait too long to get on it. So I started believing in myself once that happened, or practicing it. But the problem was I still hated wrestling. I was still so bitter at wrestling. So here I am trying to like get faith in myself again and, try to get myself, and get myself back to a competing form when I hated wrestling still. Because I was still bitter at what happened at Lockhaven. So that summer I went home and I got to hang out with my friends and I got rejuvenated and I was with my old coaches and I was like, all right. By the end of that summer, I was like, all right, it's time to do this. Like it's time.
You found what you loved about wrestling.
Yes.
Right? And that's a lot of wrestlers find that wall. They just hate it. They don't want to go to practice, all that stuff. And I saw it firsthand at my school, and I still see it with some wrestlers. They just hit the wall and they think everything sucks. I tell them, find out what you love about wrestling. I always tricked myself into that. Once I stepped into the wrestling room or in the match and everything, I just stomped my feet and I reminded myself why I loved it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just got to do that. Especially same thing with this whole quarantine. It should remind everyone why they love wrestling because they're depleted from it right now.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But the thing that was tough for me is like as much as I knew I loved wrestling, I hated it. I didn't want to be on the mat. But the good thing not the good thing, but there was like 7 or 8 guys from Lockhaven who quit that year. I think you might have remembered there was a third of the team quit that year because
there was a lot. Yeah,
whatever was going on. Whoever stuck there, like you know what, like Lockhaven, like I wish nothing but the best for them because I still have boys who wrestles for them, right? And good for them. But a lot of them quit. So I was in the boat with them and we were all just breeding negativity. Although we were all like slowly trying to find our way out, like once we got out of Lockhaven, like everything seemed to open up a little bit for me, right? So then I went to school at E-Town, I started wrestling again, and
it's
then
also the thing with. Wait, you're glitching a little bit. But was it also the whole fact that going from D1 to D3 that negative stigma that some people give Division 3? It happened with a lot of people, me and a lot of other people that, D3 isn't anything, blah, 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 blah. But there's a lot of Division 3 athletes that could have went D1 and could have excelled. But it's just different vibes and what different people wanted to. Like we were still working our butts off trying to achieve this goal and dream that we had. Was it that stigma too? And what would you say to someone that still has that mindset of thinking Division 3 isn't anything?
well, it's what you get out of it, right? It's what you
It's
get out
still
of it.
for the love of the sport, man. We still love wrestling.
It's solely for the love of the sport, right? It's not to get paid for school. It's not to make like a huge name out of yourself. It's just to do what you love again, So, and the thing is, like you were in the driver's seat of your career. That's how I felt, like where I finally was able, because for a while I was like, I felt like my coaches at Lockhaven were the ones driving my career. And I hated that. I felt like I had no control over that. And that's what, once I transferred to D3, where you have to work out on your own in the preseason. You have to make sure that you're staying in shape. You have to
It's
be
on
the
your terms. It's on your terms.
And that's where I started to take control of my decisions, and I started to take control of my attitude, and I started to take control of my effort. That's when I started to realize it, because I was like, no one else is going to be here to motivate me until October 10th, right? Because that's when the start of the season is, and I cannot afford, if I'm serious about this, I can't afford to wait until October 10th to get this ball rolling.
Exactly.
So then, I did what I did. I was actually, so, when I transferred to E-Town, not a lot of people know, they were 0-12 the year before. So it was like, when everyone's like, where are you transferring to? I'm telling them E-Town. They're looking at me like I have 10 heads. But in reality, I was just going there to shape my life up, and I had a guy that believed in me. So then what I was doing was, we didn't have great, the guys there, they're awesome, like they helped me so much throughout that year, but in the preseason they weren't as committed as me. So I was driving to UPenn once or twice a week to get a good workout in. I drove to NYU to work out with you a
Yeah.
few times. And
That's what I would do. I would go to Rutgers, train with the Rutgers guys. Gotta. If you want to be the best, you gotta train with the best. That's the way it is.
exactly. So I was driving like once a week to get a good look, and then I drove because my brother he's at UPenn, he's wrestling, and then I was driving to Bucknell because Danny Neff was coaching there. He's my old teammate at Lock Haven. So then I did what I did, and I took fourth in the country, and although I'm proud of it, it still stings to a certain extent, right?
Yeah, you always gotta be hungry, but what a moment though, what a story, and the whole thing. I call it, living through adversity. Everyone has their own adversity stories. For me, it was when my sister passed away my sophomore year in college. And the biggest advice I got was actually from Dan Gable. And it was, listen, don't do anything for her, but live your life like she's with you. And, living life with a story. So now that's part of me. That's part of my story. So I always tell myself what a story it's going to be. I still tell myself today where I want to go. Of course, I have big aspirations for myself. What a story it's going to be when I do make it. What was your story moment? What was your adversity moment? Your story moment?
Dang. I mean, my story moment was to really think about it. My story moment was the day I woke up and I was like, I need to shape my life up again.
Uh-huh.
No
So that
one,
was that was the adversity that you were facing, was
yeah,
that? Yeah.
because I was at probably the lowest low I was at ever in my life. Like I realized I was like, this is rock bottom. I'm going to build my foundation on rock bottom, and this is where I'm going to go from here. So that's the day. I couldn't pinpoint the day it was, but it was like, it was just like the day I was like, dude, enough with the crap, enough with the BSing, enough with fooling around. Like, you got to shape it up, like you got to figure it out. And now is the day I started calling coaches and
Uh-huh.
actually,
So then you could say the story was when you finally did All-American and all that. Even though you still had more in the tank, it's great. I live my life like that too. I wasn't a national champ either. I was an All-American. Whatever. We still have that edge, that unfinished business. Like Zach Evanesh would say, pissed off for greatness.
right.
So that's how I live my life now. Like I have still everything that I have to give in the tank to, achieve this new goal. And I feel like you always have to live with that chip on your shoulder. I don't know if you feel the same way with, coaching or teaching now, but being pissed off for greatness, that's something that still sticks to me today.
Yeah. Well, the thing that it more applies to coaching, right? Because teaching is this like methodical kind of laid back approach, and I still with the thing with teaching is like I'm not the passion. The way I express my passion is different than wrestling. So when I coach, like I'm in my kids' faces and I'm like, yo, like
it's so different, right? Coaching,
yeah.
You're trying to explain your own experience, but some things are harder to explain than the show.
Yeah.
I noticed that a lot.
The funny thing is I see some of my kids and I you know what, like me and Jano have something great going on out here with Silver State Wrestling Academy, but when I see my kids, I see like myself in them, a little bit of myself, and I'm like, dude, if I was in your shoes right now, I'd be dogging it right now. I would be off now.
What's the biggest difference of East Coast wrestling and then West Coast where you're at?
Ain't nothing like Jersey wrestling, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't make them like they do over here.
Yeah, I would say at least for right now, because me and Jano are kind of changing the culture right now with what we got going on.
That's big. That was like me taking over the Berkeley Heights Middle School.
Yeah.
I call it, I say, in creating your own destiny, creating your own dynasty, shaping. I tell the eighth graders that graduated, this year, I was like, the high school didn't have a too good of a year this year, so that's it. You create it. You get in there and you build your own dynasty. I motivate them like that, and they're ready. I have full confidence that they'll go into high school ready, because that was my goal. My goal as a middle school head coach was do everything possible to get them ready for high school.
Right. And I think the biggest difference is when I guess out here, the thing is, it's a hobby for a lot of kids. It's not a lifestyle.
Yeah, for us it was lifestyle. It was all in. Any wrestlers out, it's a lifestyle, man. Just anywhere you go in the world, if you're a wrestler, boom, you click right away. We're all crazy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And especially being from Jersey, dude. Like being a wrestler from Jersey is different. Like you're just built different, you're bred different, you train different. So the thing is, all of these kids are coming in like it's a hobby, and then you have Josh Nolan, who's a two-time All-American for San Francisco State, and he's from California. And then you got me coming in, and I'm an All-American, and we're like, dude, it's not just a hobby. We're trying to show them that this is a lifestyle, you know? And they're buying in. All these kids are buying in because there's so much untapped potential. Wrestling is not big in Nevada, especially in Reno. So when I saw this opportunity to help take over a club with a guy who's, he's young, he's ready to go, and I'm like, dude, this looks good because we can do this together instead of me just stepping into already something built. And that's
taking that Jersey mentality out there.
Yeah, and so it's funny because he's from California, so he's got this laid back persona, and he's like, oh, it's all good, but he's intense when he's wrestling, but he's always like laid back, but I'm always uptight in people's faces, and so that's probably the biggest difference is we're making it was a hobby, but for our kids, we're making it more into a lifestyle.
Making a lifestyle. Yeah, that's cool. That's interesting with the California connection, because me wrestling for NYU, we had a lot of California kids, and my roommate was from California, and we all had similar, wrestling. We had similar, but everything else was kind of opposite. But it was cool how we kind of blended and we kind of each other out. So that's pretty cool how you guys had that connection too.
There's always
all you Cali guys from NYU wrestling,
Yeah, wrestling's an international language, so you're always gonna vibe with a wrestler in a certain way, So that's something that's that's cool. So the thing is though that it's hard to be, especially right now. It's hard right now because we're trying to keep our kids motivated. We're working with the Zanetti brothers, right? And we're trying to get them
mindset.
Exactly. There we go. We're trying to get them exposed. We're trying to keep them, because when this is over, when this quarantine is over, like there is going to be a state tournament. There's going to be Fargo. There's going to be Super 32. And especially that Nevada states doesn't hold their weight like other states like New Jersey. You win a Nevada state title, some coaches might look at you, some maybe, but if you win a Jersey state title, it's almost a guaranteed one-way ticket to getting a scholarship.
Yeah.
So what we are trying to instill in them is being like, hey, like there's going to be a state tournament. There's going to be Fargo. Like you need to focus on these big national tournaments that are coming up soon, because your state right now, this is the way that you're going to have to get recruited is placing at these high national levels.
Yeah, shooting for the stars, and then, all that. And that was one of the things my coaches told me when I was in high school. He was like, don't just shoot to be a state champ, shoot to be a college All-American and all that. Always shoot further, because you'll push yourself. What coach did you have that really motivated you the most and that you carry on now coaching?
Okay. Good story about that. Dan O'Cone, probably. I see a lot of, so me and Coach O'Cone. He was my high school coach.
I can't hear you right now.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So me and Coach O in high school, we didn't have the best relationship, right? We butted heads a lot. He's a two-time coach of New Jersey, and at least during my time, So I'm I'm with Coach O, and he's very kind of like military kind of way, like break you down to build you up. So I had Coach O, and I didn't respond to that like harsh, like break you down kind of deal.
That was the same thing with me and McCann. A lot of us didn't like, his style. We were kind of scared of him. But I talked to him today and I said, hey man, like I really respected what you did for us back then. And I noticed everything that you did for us back then. I notice it now as a coach.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, like, but like right now, like I didn't, or back then, I didn't understand. I was just like, this, me and this dude don't mesh, but he's a great coach, Like we won a state title in high school, and he coached me to 2 state medals, and and now I lifeguard with him. He's one of the captains at the beach, and me and him just chop it up a lot, and I just pick his brain. But like back in the day, I just didn't get it. I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. But now everything, because I was like, this guy's the stupidest dude in the world. But now looking back, like he's brilliant.
Yeah, that's how I look at McCann. He was the man.
I didn't understand it. So, and that's the thing is like I didn't respond to him well then. But the thing is like the more and more I coach, the more similarities I see in him. Like the more intensity I see in myself. Like the more, the more accountability as a team. Like he ingrained all these things in me, whether I liked it or not. And now I'm seeing like everything come together with that.
Yeah. So you lifeguard too, right? You've been lifeguarding for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And you're gonna come back to Jersey in the summer as a lifeguard, right?
Yeah.
So how's lifeguarding? How does one getting the lifeguard and all that? If you want to touch on that real quick.
Yeah. So basically, back in the day, Coach O'Cone and all of his friends, the coach of Point Pleasant Borough, Brian Grainer. He's one of the head lifeguards. Anton Attenbury, head coach of Middletown South. So like all these dudes came together and like a bunch of wrestlers, and they're like, let's go lifeguard like at the beach because they all lived at the beach and they're like, we can get paid to sit on the beach all day. So that's kind of what we did. What they did, and they started building this culture of wrestlers. So like I think last year, like the stats was like over 70% of us were wrestlers at one point. And we wrestled together in high school, so we all knew each other. It's like a fun little job. We get paid to sit on the beach and hang out and get tan and chill. So
nothing about saving people, huh?
Well, the thing is, it's in Point, and Jenks is notorious for their people who come from all over the place. And
Benny's, huh? Benny's, you call me the Benny, huh?
Of them are pennies. So they come in and they don't know how to swim, but they think they can swim once they jump in. And you see dudes in like full blown jeans like jumping in that never jumped in the water before. So it's crazy. I mean, I had 17 saves last season. So it's like you still got to be on your game, It's not all fun and games, but it's fun though. Like it's fun.
You got to go through certification and training and everything.
Yeah, you got to get CPR certified. You have to pass tryouts. You got to pass the interview. And then obviously a big part of rookie training is all wrestling-based, like exercises.
Yeah, you got to be able to know how to swim and pull people out of water and all that stuff.
Yeah, and a bunch of people quit during rookie training because wrestling's all about like, pulling people, pushing people, and you're doing all these exercises in and out of the water, and a lot of non-wrestlers can't hack it. Wrestlers might not be the best swimmers, but they're tough and they know how to respond to situations like that, right? Like you can have a guy drop in front of you and have a heat stroke, but no one's around you to help you. You're the first responder. So that's a cool little adrenaline rush, So
awesome.
It's fun, and the thing is, like, it taps into your jersey a little bit, Like it's fun. You live at the shore. You're on the beach all day. So
the Jersey Shore.
People don't understand, dude. Like people don't understand that living in during the summer at the Jersey Shore and you live there is like living a vacation every day. People don't understand that.
Yeah, it's nice. It's the greatest place to be in the summer, everyone.
Exactly. So, that's why I'm coming back during the summer, and then during winter or during the fall, I'll be back out here.
So we'll end it with this. So who is Joey Ghione, and what do you want to be known for?
Joey Ghione is a caring, outgoing, passionate person, and just wants to be known for touching a bunch of lives, right? Just to be able to help families all around, right? To help all my students, become successful, help all my athletes become successful. And, I want to be known to, be a family man as well. Even though I live across the country from my family right now, I do my best to stay in touch with them, right? And, and what I want to be known for is just, a dude who people can look up to and who people can talk to, right? Like my coach at Ep1, my assistant coach, Quint Eno. I aspire to be that dude. I aspire to be him. I never met him until like my first day I was on campus. And, he's just an all around, just a great dude. Like I could talk to him about anything. I talked to him 2 weeks ago about just some random stuff, and I want to be that person. I want to be that person when I grow up. I want to be the person that people can go to. I want to be the person that people can come to clarity to. And I want to be the person who people can come to laugh at and laugh with.
Entertain, baby. All right, so that's what we got today. They can follow you right at Joey Ghione.
Yep. Follow. Yes.
No, put your plugs out there. Let's hear your plugs. Go.
All right. Follow Silver State Wrestling Academy if you can. We're building something big.
If you're on the West Coast, check them out. If you want to be a wrestler out there.
Yes. Before this quarantine stuff was happening, we were getting guys from Idaho, California, Oregon showing up for private lessons during the weekend. Follow Silver State Wrestling Academy. We're making wrestling big again. We're chasing gold in the Silver State. Okay? Follow Jay Knows. He is my partner in Silver State Wrestling Academy. Knows everything there is to wrestling. His full-time job is wrestling. Follow E-Town Wrestling. That's my alma mater. They will always be on my top of the list. And follow Ray Jaz because he's about to make it big.
There we go. So we served a lot today from Joey Ghione at the breakfast buffet. So if you have any questions about moving out west, being a special education teacher, or even lifeguarding, please hit up Joey Ghione. He will have the answers for you. Or maybe this was so informative you got it from here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for coming to the breakfast buffet. I hope we served you well.
This is it.
This is it. All right, let me end this.